Today, we're talking about strange disappearances, UFO sightings, encounters with ghosts, Native American legends, and other bizarre mysteries when it comes to a very specific place in Oregon. Today, we're talking about Crater Lake. Have you heard of it? It's a pretty bizarre and very interesting place that we're going to go into detail right here, right now. But first, let me bring in my co host, Jimmy Church of Fade to Black Radio. Jimmy, happy Thursday, as it is every single Thursday. How are you?
Man, I've got coffee. Drinking coffee. Cristina does that, but she sees me go like this. And now going live. I'm going to take my
You gotta
time
be
now.
ready. You gotta
I'm
be
gonna take
ready
my
for
time.
the headlights.
Crater Lake. Welcome, everybody. How you doing? I just saw somebody post that you do your shows fine all on your own. Oh, really? Okay. All right.
You bring in all the knowledge that I do not bring. That's why we cover all the difficult topics with you, Jimmy.
Crater Lake is absolutely amazing. It's stunning. It's everything. I've covered it. We've talked about a couple of things about Crater Lake before. The mysteries behind it, going back to its origin story, is about as crazy as it gets. And then you have this other part. It's beautiful. It's pristine. It's people talk a lot about me riding my Harley. There's something about an island in the middle of a lake that just takes your breath away. And I do this cruise. I'm going to make this really quick. I did it this morning, and I round this corner at the top of this mountain, and there's this lake there, and it's got all of these islands in it, just like this. And I can't take it reminds me of the game Uru Mist, right? And yeah, it's before your time, Cristina, but it was a really cool game where you travel to this other world. Well, anyway, it reminds me of that. And there's something majestic about an island in the middle of a lake, and Crater Lake, Wizard Island, and some others. We'll talk about all of that and its creation, and I'm going to say folklore, right? The legend behind it. It's a tremendous story. We've talked about it before, and we're going to visit that again today. But Crater Lake's got everything. It's got everything. It's got Bigfoot. It's got ghosts. It's haunted. That the island that you're looking at there, Wizard Island, right? You can just stop right there, right? Right? You've got UFOs and gods and trapped gods, and it's got everything. Crater Lake is absolutely incredible. And then you throw in the missing persons, which I've got a few of those. I know that you do too. Today, before we get started, I went and looked at the missing persons reports, right? The official reports from the government of Crater Lake from 1980 until 2023. You should see this list. Oh, man, it's just one after it's Crater Lake, man. You know, go for the beauty, right? Go for the beauty and then just get out.
Yeah,
bring a friend
and tie yourself with rope just to be safe.
Just do a drive-by. Just do a drive-by. But let's get started. The Crater Lake is incredible.
It is, and we've covered a lot of national parks and forests, and one consistent theme that we see is the level of hauntedness, paranormalness, and UFO sightings as well. And the big question is, what the heck is going on? Why are all these national forests, looking at the United States specifically, but we can look across the world, where all of this bizarre stuff is happening in a not condensed area? It's a lot of national forests are huge, and yet consistently we hear all of these very, very bizarre stories. Why? I want to start off with that for you, Jimmy, and everyone listening. Why do you think we hear so many weird stories with national parks and forests, more so than maybe a different location?
You know, because something's happening. That's why we hear about them. When you have and it's such a mix, right? First off, national forest land is a big part of the United States. So it's it's big geographically, it's really big. And then you have the federal employees and the park rangers and the stuff that control that area and monitor and protect it. It's too big, right? It's just too big, and so people go off and never come back. There's that missing planes. It's not just people. You don't have to be on 2 feet. Missing planes, missing cars, missing things that just seem to disappear and vanish. And yeah, and why is it so often in national parkland? It's just big. It's big, and if you go into the paranormal and the supernatural and you apply that part to it, and cryptids and Bigfoot and UFOs and anything else, if you want to stay hidden, go to a national park, right? And that's it. Is some of this stuff connected to the paranormal and the supernatural? Well, it's some of it is really, really mysterious. I When you have somebody disappear in a national park and their clothes are folded, what? You're going to take your clothes off and fold them and then just take off running and then disappear yourself? That's mysterious to me, Christina. That is just plainly mysterious. And there are lots of examples like that. And to have somebody, you said earlier, a rope, right? Tie yourself to a friend. I say that all the time.
You do.
Yeah, yeah. How is it possible to have, and I know it sounds crazy, but you have, say, 8 people, right? 4 people to a car, pull up, they go on a hike, and somebody manages to get lost and separated from the group and never seen again. How does that happen? Tie a string. Tie a string to everybody. Don't lag behind. That you're going to turn around and everybody's going to be gone. You're going to make a wrong turn and then bad things happen. This is not a one-off event. This is something that happens constantly. Constantly. We can joke about string or rope, but I'm just telling you, tie yourselves together. And it's not said to be funny, ha ha. I don't understand how somebody can straggle behind. No, I can, because I've done it. But you straggle just a little bit behind, and the next thing you know, you don't hear anything. You don't hear your friends. You don't see them, and they were just there. And it happens a lot. It happens a lot in national parks for sure.
It does. And when we're dealing, I'm glad that Skyhawk brings us up, is that a lot of these national forests and parks were and have originally, or they were originally, Native American land that they usually classified as sacred and or mysterious. And looking at Crater Lake, there's a very interesting myth from the Klamath Indian legend. Am I saying that right? Did
Yeah,
I
I
say
know
that
you are.
correctly?
Klamath. No, Klamath
Okay,
is
thank
correct.
you. Okay, cool. I was like, ooh, got a little nervous there. But with their Indian legend, it was this epic battle between these two gods. One was the god of the underworld, and the other one was the god of the sky. And according to the tale, Lao, the god of the underworld, lived beneath Mount Mazuma, yeah, before enraged with this beautiful Native American girl which rejected his advances. So he unleashed his fury on the tribe, prompting them to seek help from Skell, which was the god of the sky. And then this created this very intensive battle between the god of the underworld and the god of the sky, all because of love. And so that now Lau initially defeated Skell, and the clever girl, this Native American girl, stole back Skell's heart, reviving him. And then ultimately, Skell triumphed and dismembering Lau and throwing his body parts into the lake. And Lau's head, which his underwater like creature refused to eat, became Wizard Island that we're seeing right here on screen. This legend alone, we've heard a lot of similar ones, like the ones in Egypt dealing with Horus, even talking about Hades and Zeus as well. We're seeing this mix, this very interesting, I almost want to say clash between all of these different myths that we've heard across the country, across the world, meeting up here for this legend and talking about Crater Lake and even Wizard Island that we're seeing on screen right here, which is supposed to be the head of the god from the underworld. Jimmy, when you were reading this legend, what was going through your mind on this?
Okay, I always combine science and fact with us, right? Right, with the woo. And so here's the interesting, let's go to some of the facts with this. The Klamath Indians have lived in the region for at least 8,000 years. 8,000 years. And the science fact behind this is everything went chaotic 7,700 years ago. Okay. And that was the creation of Crater Lake. We know that the Klamath Indians have been there longer than the lake has because of tools, obsidian tools, spear throwers, moccasins. Have been found beneath the Mazama ash layers from the eruption that happened that formed Crater Lake. So the Klamath Indians have been there at least 8,000 years. The Klamath Indians do describe the catastrophic eruption of Mount Mazama and the creation of Crater Lake. And they describe it, as you had mentioned, as this raging war between two great volcanoes, and which is Mount Mazama and Mount Shasta, and that these two gods were hurling stuff at each other from the two mountaintops, flaming rocks and boulders and things. But Crater Lake was created from a love story. Okay, because it's a love story. It's a love story, right? And it's that classic boy likes girl, girl thinks dude is ugly. That's what it is, right? And you said it was rejecting the advances. She said, dude, you're ugly. And these are her words, by the way. It sounds like I'm using no, that is the translation from the story. And now you mentioned Lao. He was the spirit of the below world. He was ugly, dude. And he lived below Lao Yana, which is now known as Mount Mazama. Skell, you mentioned, he was the spirit of the above world. Okay, so you have one below Lao, one above. One day, Lao saw Loha, and she was the daughter of the Klamath Indian chief. He falls in love with her, first sight, right? Falls in love with her, and she was beautiful, but she rejected him because she said that he was ugly. These are her words, by the way. And also that he was from the below world. Well, he gets angry, and he swears that he would take revenge on her people. So, ladies, remember, don't call your dude ugly. Come up with another excuse, whatever it may be. But so Skell descended from the sky, to the top of Mount Shasta. Skell and Lau started throwing these flaming boulders at each other from both mountaintops, Shasta and Mazama, and then Crater Lake, right? Skell collapsed the top of Mount Mazama to imprison Lau forever beneath the world. Skell wanted peace and tranquility. He was the god of the above world. And so to cover up the dark pit, he filled it with beautiful blue water. That is still crystal clear and tranquil, by the way, to this day. It is just a beautiful lake. Now, crawfish and the newts and the battle that's going on there at Crater Lake, that's another interesting thing that's going on. The newts only live in that lake and have evolved to live in the lake, and the crawfish, they literally take up 80% of the shoreline, and so that's another battle that's been going on. But so that's the myth of the creation. That's the story behind Crater Lake and Wizard Island. And what is interesting for me is the timing of all of this. The myth and legend go back to the time of the last volcanic eruption, which created Crater Lake. So, did the water come from Skell? Maybe. Don't know. Love the legend, and it times with everything else, doesn't it?
And for a very long time, it was believed that Crater Lake was a dormant volcano. However, in the 1980s, they did find hydrothermal vents that are active. And with these vents, what's really interesting is that a lot of gases come out of them, such as methane. We're going to revert back to that. So keep that in mind. Write it on a post-it note. It's going to be relevant a little bit later, but I'm glad that we're bringing it up now when talking about the origins of Crater Lake. But Jimmy, where do you want to take this next? We have so much to cover in a very limited amount of time.
Well, okay. I'm going to start with a little bit of modern history, and then
Okay.
we're going to work ourselves backwards, because back in 2017, I covered this extensively on my radio shows, because back in 2017, there was a UFO sighting over Crater Lake, and Air National Guard F-16s were scrambled, or F-18s were scrambled, or F-15s, whatever the National Guard in Oregon has. This was covered by the media quite a bit. And the reason why it was covered by the media was you had the sighting, you had the radar stuff, but you also had the air traffic controllers and the pilots talking, and the recordings of those conversations were released, and it was very strange. And flying above Crater Lake in Oregon, an unregistered aircraft was causing havoc. It was seen, it was tracked, and nobody knew what it was. Pilots were seeing it, and they didn't have they weren't able to describe it. The pilots started radioing in reports of, and I'm going to quote, UFOs. Okay, that's what went down. And flying outside of registered flight plans. Okay, now you're a pilot, you need to be safe, and then you've got a UFO. Their words, right? Sounds like I'm interjecting something here. This is their words. And because it was a UFO, the registered flight plans that were expected from other aircraft in the area were there. And then you've got this UFO coming in, causing a disturbance. On the ground, you had a similar situation going on, because radars were alerting air traffic controllers to this mysterious UFO that was not in a flight path, and it was doing its own thing. I have a quote here. This is 2017. Okay. I have a quote. You know that target south of the boundary there? The 0027 code moving very fast at 37,000 feet? That's a radar operator talking to a pilot. Now, what is going on here? Officials, as all of this chatter from the pilots to ground control and everything that was going on with the sightings and tracking on radar, officials decided to take everything very seriously. They started scrambling F-15 fighter jets from Portland International Airport, trying to intercept, again, their words, the object. They arrive on scene. The mysterious object vanished. As soon as the F-15s arrived, it vanished off of radar, and the pilots no longer had visual. And that's Crater Lake in 2017, Christina. So the mystery, right, that goes back 8,000 years, all the way through history, all kinds of stuff being reported. But something like this that involves technology, radar, our military, commercial pilots, private pilots, air traffic controllers, witnesses on the ground. This is a sighting from 2017 above Crater Lake.
It's a really interesting case, and it's unfortunate. To my understanding, there aren't any photos of that sighting that took place back in 2017. Jimmy, did you ever come across any? Because I wasn't able to find anything.
No photos, no photos. The radar tracking data, which allegedly, everything is recorded. None of that stuff was released. The FAA, very interestingly, though, during this period, ended up releasing 3 sets of audio recordings from 3 different incidents, one in New Mexico and 2 that were in Oregon. And this one at Crater Lake, and I always thought to myself, because at that time, what was going on? What was going on? TTSA, New York Times, December of 2017, and everything that started to take off. When the FAA got involved and these releases started to happen, you had the Tic Tac UFO and video, all of that happened, and then suddenly the FAA is releasing audio recordings of UFO sightings, and it was these 3 cases, and they happened almost on top of each other. They were very close. It was like a couple of weeks apart that we're getting these crazy UFO sightings. And one of them, is described as flying over this commercial aircraft, and it was, they said it was shaped like a missile and flew right over the top of their aircraft. Again, the recordings were released by the FAA. No photographs, just the description from the pilots and ground control.
If you enjoyed that particular case and story, hit that like button right down below. But we have a few more for you when it comes to UFO sightings, because there was another one back in February in the year 1997. That's a hot year, right? Why, Jimmy?
1997, Phoenix Lights.
Yeah, there we go. And so there was this pretty quick sighting of 3 disc-shaped objects flying right over the crater at night, February 4th, 1997. And there was also a sonic boom heard that same night. There was also a sighting in July of 1949 when there was this mysterious object that was allegedly filmed over Crater Lake. I wasn't able to find it. I know, disappointing. But although there were no official documentation on that particular sighting that took place in 1949, it's been one that's been talked about in groups at and around Crater Lake, along with park rangers as well. But there isn't a lot of information on exactly what it looked like. Now, there was another one in July of 1979. And what happened there was that people across Oregon, just across the entire state, they saw a fiery object in the sky. And some of them had mentioned that it was super duper bright and it had fragmented greenish light moving across the heavens from this object. Many people in and around Crater Lake also saw it. And there was a particularly compelling account that came from an FAA employee who claimed that radar tracked the object until it disappeared near Crater Lake, which is really interesting. But despite initial interest and investigation, the FAA later refuted this claim, leaving the incident just completely shrouded in mystery here. And this is something that we've seen consistently. One of the best examples was with the Roswell incident, where they said one thing and then they said, nope, just kidding. They're still making the same mistake all the way until the 70s, and I think we could even bring that up to more modern times as well, where they redact what they say. And they're like, oh no, just kidding here. But it seems like Crater Lake does have its fair share of UFO sightings. And what I think is also pretty important to note are the amount of plane crashes that have taken place there and planes that have disappeared there. And when we're talking about UFOs, right? And then we hear these strange disappearances and crashes. Is there a connection here, or are we just pulling at strings? What do you think?
Well, yeah, because for sure, Crater Lake has more than its fair share of UFO sightings, and which include, you've got multiple groups of UFOs. You mentioned the one with 3. There's been 5 and 8 groups of UFOs flying in formation over Crater Lake. You've got the sightings over and inside of the forest. And then you've got multiple reports of UFOs flying in and out of the lake itself. All right. So we have that. And it's been going on for a long time. But when you get to things like disappearing planes, that's crazy to me. And I have got a few different. I went through the list of plane disappearances, and not only do you have planes disappearing, but the crew disappeering. That's a whole nother right. To have a plane disappear. Specifically in 1944, a report of a missing Grumman torpedo plane had crashed into the lake. The two planes were flying together. Now, check this out, Cristina. Two planes, 2 pilots. One pilot looked away for a moment from the other plane. He looked back, and the plane was gone. It was gone. And the pilot said, now this is, you can read the military report on this. And the quote from the pilot, he said, well, I didn't actually see it crash into the lake. It just vanished. Plane was never seen, never found. And that you've got to, look at something like that and just go, wait a minute here. Now, there were Grummans, there were TRFs, flying in formation. There was another group of 8 military Air Force planes that were flying together. One of those, 7 landed. They had left from, I'm just going off of my memory here, Redding, California, flying to Washington, and they fly over Crater Lake. Only 7 made it past the lake. One plane completely vanished. They came out of the clouds, and everybody looks around, and there's 7 planes, not 8. Never found the other plane. What they did find, which was 25 years later, was the skull of one of the pilots. Right? And that was found by hikers. And the Air Force never really closed this case. They went back and reopened it. They find this. They don't find the plane. They never found the plane. They never found the pilot's body. They only found his skull, found by a hiker by chance 25 years later. Same thing happened with another missing plane. The navigator and the gunner, there's three. There's a pilot, navigator, and a gunner. The navigator and gunner, plane goes missing. They find the pilot's body. The navigator and the gunner, never found. Plane, never found. Right? It's just like, what is up with Crater Lake? What happened in 1995? There was another missing plane.
Yes, so there's been a handful. Some that have gone missing and some that have crashed. Some that have crashed include the one in 1945, another one in 1961. There's also one in 1975 as well. But looking at the case that took place September 23rd, 1995, there were park visitors that were just stunned to see a helicopter carrying these two pilots, these two people, and this crash into Crater Lake on a very casual, normal afternoon. There was no severe weather, there was no thunderstorms, no crazy wind, nothing like that. And despite these rather amazing conditions, the helicopter suddenly plunged into the lake, and there were these recovery efforts that attempted to collect the wreckage from the plane and also those that were inside of it. And the company that owned the helicopter paid $100,000 to aid in the recovery, but the helicopter remains at the very bottom of the lake. And the crash also caused a 70-gallon fuel leak in the lake, which raised environmental concerns. But this is one of a handful of just these crazy crashes of helicopters and airplanes in moments where the weather is just a little too perfect. Now, Jimmy, remember when I said write that down on a post-it note in your mind when talking about the hydrothermal vents and methane, right? Remember I said that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this could be a possible theory that if there is an immense amount of methane being released from this crater, maybe even creating methane clouds, when airplanes or helicopters go through these, it's almost as if they're going through a kind of vacuum, and they're no longer able to stay as elevated in the air as they should, and then this allows them to plummet right into the water. Now, is that the case for these crashes? I am not sure. However, it is a theory when we are looking at these specific types of volcanoes and these airplane crashes.
Methane bubbles have been, now this phenomenon, okay, with methane has been proven in a lab, in a laboratory setting. Okay. Done a lot of testing with this, the buoyancy of boats and methane and planes, right? Okay. But the phenomena being observed in nature, we haven't caught that. And that has always been part of the theory behind the Bermuda Triangle, for instance, that methane is being released and there's a methane bubbling, gurgling section of the ocean. Boat goes through it, sinks because it's no longer buoyant, right? But nobody's ever seen this happen. Now, I've seen it. I've seen the video of the testing in a lab, and a boat going over, methane foam sinks. It can't float. It's the same thing with an airplane. Now, is there methane burping around Crater Lake that is causing this? Well, these planes, some have crashed in the forest, but some of these planes have vanished. Now, that's when I go to something maybe a little more supernatural, something a little more paranormal going on. For a group of planes to fly into a cloud and then, 7 come out and 1 goes missing. The case in 1944 with the two planes, and the pilot just turns around and the plane's there, and then he looks away momentarily, looks back, the plane is gone, and like he was. I never said it crashed into the lake, right? It just vanished, and they were at altitude. So, is there some vortexy thing going on? I don't know. But things just don't, things do just vanish. But what is causing that? What is happening when something just vanishes? And again, I mentioned it earlier. It's not just planes, it's not just UFOs, but it's people, it's cars, it's things just seem to vanish at Crater Lake. And it's a crazy phenomenon. And then you throw in the element of Bigfoot. You throw that into the mix. Crater Lake has got just a little bit of everything. Let me shift gears before we run out of time. I do want to talk a little bit before I get into some missing people. But the Bigfoot sightings that have been there, one is official, right? It's a park ranger, goes on the record. And we'll talk about that in just a second. Then you have, I was just going to say, then you have Wizard Lake and the mysterious supernatural. The lake is haunted. Okay, let's just go there. You can take tours. You can summer season, you can ride out to, isn't that a beautiful, look at that. Isn't that
It's
just
stunning.
yeah, just stunning. And then you can take your boat tour, go out there and see yourself a ghost, man, and get haunted. And it goes on. Everybody talks about how haunted Wizard Lake is. So now let's go to a couple of, and I didn't get to the old man in the lake. We can't let that one get away from us. That's a great, should I do that now? Should I do the old man in the lake?
No, you already have been priming us for the Bigfoot.
You want to do Bigfoot or missing people? Let's do missing people. 1974.
Why did you ask me then?
I don't know. We're live, Cristina. What? I'm supposed to be Mr. Organized? I've only had a sip of coffee, by the way.
Go ahead. Take us to missing people. Let's hear it.
In 1974, I'm going to do my radio voice. I should do my 1932 news reporter. In 1974, a budding photographer traveled from Virginia to Crater Lake for winter photos. He hitchhiked his way to the lake to take photos and scheduled to return to a friend's house a couple of days later. Sadly, he never returned. His remains were found a year later by hikers that took a wrong turn. They had to take the wrong turn and accidentally discovered his bag. The nature of his remains was sketchy at best, and his photography equipment was never found. Wow, it's very interesting. The most interesting legend, though, for me, Cristina, was in 1853. Okay, because now we did, UFOs, planes, trains, automobiles, ghosts, missing people, hikers, Bigfoot. How about pirate gold? Yeah, let's throw that into the mix, right? Okay, 1853. 3 explorers set out to find a missing miner that went missing somewhere around the lake. The miner's nickname was Set 'em Up. That was his nickname. Set 'em Up. Okay? Set up the tents, set 'em up. And was rumored to walk into town loaded with gold. The explorers thought that maybe they could find the miner, his gold, and his mine. While searching, they became a little lost, so they split up to cover more ground. One came across the other, who claimed he found a cabin. On the way there, the explorer that supposedly found the cabin fell down a hill and died when his horse lost his footing. All the info died with him. No one has found the gold, and the legend is it's still out there to be found. The cabin, right? The missing cabin. Remember my missing house story? Same deal. Same deal. This is great. This is great. Okay, let's go to Bigfoot. Let's go to Bigfoot. I don't want to run out of time. We got to get some Bigfoot in here. Okay, so here we go. The year was 1976, Cristina. 1976. Look at Christina's face. The year was 1976. A park's chief naturalist, his name was George Morrison, by the way, said he saw Bigfoot, Sasquatch. He said that he saw it run across the road at dusk and head into Annie Creek Canyon. Morrison said the upright creature took only 4 steps to cross the road. Morrison, an experienced nature observer, said he couldn't find any footprints, but he was freaked out and scared to death from the sighting. No news if he's still a naturalist at Crater Lake or if he skipped town. But then you have 5 years later in 1981, park visitor Roger Wade reported seeing an upright Sasquatch cross 50 yards in front of his car 3 miles west of Annie Spring, where Wade's sighting was. Now, and Wade, who was a park employee at the time, naturalist, he did a written statement on his sighting, right? And he had described the creature as 6 foot tall, light brown, and cinnamon hair. Wade claimed to have found large footprints. Park rangers there have also reported seeing campfires. Now, check this out. All right, this I found really strange, and it ties back to Wizard Island. Okay, you ready? Park rangers have reported seeing campfires on the lake's Wizard Island. But by the time they arrive to investigate, they can't find any evidence of a fire. But the cinder cone, the fire's not burning, but the cinder cone where the fire was is shaped like a wizard's hat. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Wizard Island. Now, do you have any other missing persons reports or any other Bigfoot sightings?
I do. First of all, talking about Wizard Island, number one, it is the coolest name ever. And the reason to why it's haunted is what Jimmy had mentioned, is that you have these phantom fires where you see the glow at the distance, you go over there and there is no fire at all. There's also been people that have allegedly encountered spirits as well, maybe even elementals, who knows. But there have been some haunted stories at the Crater Lake Inn, and I have a picture of the inn right here.
That's haunted. That's haunted. That's haunted.
It even looks haunted.
There. Yeah, you don't stay there. That's straight out of The Shining. I've seen this movie, man. I've seen this movie. I would not turn the car around. Why? Turn the car around. Let's go buy a tent. Oh, geez.
Probably be safer there. Well, this was built in 1915, and over the century and a little bit, there have been some very strange sightings that people have encountered, including sightings of a young girl in period clothing from the early 20th century, often seen wandering the halls like The Shining. But what's also interesting here is that people have encountered an apparition of a Chinese man who reportedly haunts the lodge's elevator as well. And guests have described sharing the elevator with a man who disappears right before their eyes, while staff members have reported hearing unexplained noises from the elevator shaft as well. To be fair, elevators are already scary for a lot of people. When you just add a ghost to that, or like even just scary noises that shouldn't be heard in an elevator, people are out of there like a bullet.
Yeah,
Too
yeah.
fast.
Door opens, dude in there going up. Nope, nope.
Not anymore.
Actually, not. I was.
Where are the stairs?
I gotta go. I have a dentist appointment. I'm out. And yeah, because uh if you are crazy enough to stay at a hotel that looks like that, right, and not have visions of Jack Nicholson, that's on you. But the people that the guests, I should say, that managed to spend the night say that the nights are filled with night terrors and nightmares. They can't sleep in this hotel. And that's a bad reputation, right? And I think it's rooted in something. Many guests have talked about, and this is way before The Shining, two girls, two ghosts, two spirits walking the halls. Right. Well, maybe that's where Stephen King got the idea. Right. I don't know. But there is that, and the why they would say Chinese, right? That dates the storytelling, right? Chinese man, but that the elevators are haunted by a Chinese guy, and the elevator doors open, and there's a Chinese guy there that seems to disappear. I, that's just enough for me. What? So the question is, Christina, do you stay there?
With equipment.
Knowing all of that, do you check into that hotel?
Hell yeah. I just need
Oh, you
all
do.
of my ghost hunting equipment to make it worth it.
Oh man.
Otherwise, I wouldn't just casually sleep there. But this is a piece of advice that has been told to me for a while now, and that is don't fear the dead, fear the living. So after hearing that, for the most part, I'm not like so scared of ghosts. More so, I'm scared of people.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. And what do you think of when you combine all of this? This is what I find really interesting. We combine all of this. We've got a big pile of stuff with Crater Lake. I think
Okay.
one of the most mysterious parts about it are those campfires on Wizard Island, right?
Mm.
Where you can see that. I mean, that's a you can see binoculars, you can see it from the shore. You see it, you go out there and they're not there. You combine all of this. What do you think is going on? Do you think it goes back to Skell and Lau and the origin stories of this, that it's just a geographic location full of spirits?
Originally, when I heard the stories of these phantom fires over Wizard Island, the first thing that came to mind was the Brown Mountain Lights. That's what I thought of first. And so could that also be a factor? It's a possibility. Now the question would be, let's say we are dealing with entities, paranormal. Why would they want to make a fire? And then when you go there, why isn't it actually a fire? Are they able to somehow manipulate the environment around them to produce this light without actually using the elements required to create fire? It's an interesting theory. I'd love to see it with my own eyes in order to create a proper conclusion, but as of now, it's just in that category of I don't know what that is, but it has captured my interest.
Except, okay, this is where I go. Except you brought up Brown Mountain Lights. Most when you get to the core of the issue, you've
Mm.
got glowing orange orbs tied to different indigenous cultures and spirits. And then you tie that into the reports of ball lightning moving across the ground, orbs in the forest. Are those spirits? What is causing those orbs? Now let's go back to Wizard Island and all of the history going back with the Klamath Indians. of the creation of Wizard Island and the spirits that occupy not only above but below and are trapped underneath that island. So we park rangers, visitors, people that are looking at the island and seeing, are they seeing what they think is campfires because it's orange, or are they seeing the orbs of spirits moving around on the island? So they go out there and they're like, dude, the campfire was right here. We saw it. There's nothing here. Aha. Right? That's the aha. Maybe, we want to, our brain can only work with what we know. Right? So we see something like that, you're going to assume it's a campfire. I get that. I totally do. But when you get out there and there's no campfire, now you've got to take this to another level. We saw it, but what was it that we saw? So going back to the Brown Mountain Lights or ball lightning, spirit orbs, and these conversations that have gone on for thousands of years, maybe that's what's happening on Wizard Island.
Any place that's called Wizard Island, I'll buy a ticket so fast to go there, and I'm ready to get my wizard powers.
Yeah, Wizard Island, I'm okay with. The Crater Lake drive-up motel with the scary death clown as a desk clerk. I'm not checking into that hotel, man. That place. I mean, look, when you flash that picture up, everybody right now, let's light up the chat room. How many people thought of The Shining the instant that they saw that picture? The instant. Let's light up the chat. Just say I did. That's it. Just punch in I did. The only thing missing is the frigging the labyrinth, the maze, right?
Yes.
The hedge maze out front. Okay, look at this. Yep. I did. Look, the entire chat. The entire chat. The entire chat. I would never. No. I love this. There is the thank you, everybody. See, I just want to make sure that here's Johnny. I just want to make sure that it wasn't just me. That's exactly what I see there.
You're not the only crazy one here.
No. Crater Lake, I haven't been there. Okay, I haven't. It's been on my list to visit for many, many, many years. When you go back and you go to the Klamath Indians origin story, which I love, something tells me that I've driven. I've been up in that area many, many times, and I think I've driven past it, but I've never made it to the lake. I would like to go up there and see it, and I would like to go to Wizard Island. So there's definitely something going on. It's a mysterious place. And
Jimmy, I would definitely say if you're gonna go, bring a friend, tie some string around them, because not only had there been UFO sightings, Bigfoot sightings, plane crashes, planes disappearing, people disappearing, but also some very strange murders and suicides there as well, that people have described as if the person that had done those treacherous things were in a trance as well. People have also slipped off of the cliff to get a better picture, or was it the Pukwudgies that pushed them? Needless to say, that area, don't go alone. Bring someone with you. At the very least, tell someone where you're going to be and when you're going to come back. And when you don't come back, they got to call 911 and say, we have a missing person.
You can look at the incident report that I mentioned one earlier, the missing persons report. You can also look at the incident report of Crater Lake. Go and look and see how much crazy stuff is reported by people. It's just like Cristina just said. It's like everything that you can think of happens at that lake. How many people can slip and fall in a year? How many people can go missing in a year? How many times can you have big and in this part of the country, Bigfoot is king for sure. Shasta and that area, UFOs and everything else in the mystery that goes on. That's where Crater Lake is. You know, I've seen a couple of really good documentaries on Crater Lake and the all of the mysteries. It's such an easy thing to do. I'm serious. The mysteries of Crater Lake. Okay, let's call our documentary that. And you've got just historically, you've got so many things that you can cover, and then you have to back up and go, what is going on here? Crater Lake is all that.
All that and more. Whipped cream and a cherry on top. It's a crazy place. And yet, we talk about the Bridgewater Triangle. We can talk about the Bermuda Triangle, and we know like Sedona as well. But I think here, Crater Lake does take the cake for just the amount of strangeness that takes place there.
Okay, so I'm going to close with this. All right, I'm going to close with this. The Old Man of the Lake. All right, now check this out. It's an ancient hemlock. Listen, everybody, focus on what I'm about to say. There it is. The Old Man of the Lake is an ancient hemlock tree that has been floating around the pristine body of water for over 100 years. Geologist Joseph S. Diller mentioned seeing the miraculous stump 6 years earlier near Wizard Island at Crater Lake's west end. And that was 100 years ago. And when he made the report, he had seen it 6 years before. He described it as the old man's sun-bleached and splintered head, which you see there, right? And torso floated nearly 4 feet above the water. His lower body descended 30 feet into the depths, and his waist was 2 feet in diameter at the surface. That's called the Old Man of the Lake. That has been floating around that lake for at least 100 years. The first reports were 100 years ago. That's crazy, isn't it?
Well, it gets even crazier because in 1998 they had this team, this submarine team, exploration team. They tethered the hemlock to shore because they considered it a navigational hazard. And according to this story, which now it seems as if it's nearly a legend, it says that it wasn't long after he was tied up that a storm blew, and in the surface of the lake, it got so rough for us to deploy the submarine. And there's even another legend that says when they attempted to remove this piece of log out of the water, it snowed in August. And as soon as they let it go, it stopped snowing. Take it or leave it. It's a crazy little tidbit to add to this legend. But I think it is really interesting because this log has been floating around for about 100 plus years, but there hasn't been any decay or any significant rotting. The water doesn't make it sway, but the wind does. There's all of these different things that make this I want to call it an anomaly, so bizarre. And again, it's called the Old Man of the Lake. And that's why it catches a lot of people's attention when they talk about Crater Lake, is because of those stories and those attributes of this hemlock.
Gas up the RV. Let's go. Let's go to Crater Lake. You stay at the Crater Lake Lodge. I stay in the RV in the parking lot. Cristina, great show. Thank you so much. Crater Lake. I'm serious. Gas up the RV. We're heading up. Tonight on Fade to Black, Ron James is on with us from MUFON, film director, TV host. And he's got 4 breaking UFO and ET cases, 4 new ones. And we're going to be talking about that and much more tonight on Fade to Black. Everybody else, have a great day. I'll see you tonight. Thank you, Cristina.
Thank you. And if you enjoyed the show, hit that like button right down below and subscribe if you haven't already, as I do several shows right here every single week. And tomorrow is going to be Strangest News of the Week. You don't want to miss it, as it will be live. Before you head out, scan this QR code. They'll take you to all of my social media links, including my website where I do write articles for all the shows right here. But if you're watching this on your phone, that link is right in the description box below. That place is your friend. You'll find some really great stuff in that description box. Always read it, as there's always new information right there. That is it for today. I will see you tomorrow. Be safe, and remember, keep your eyes on the skies. If you enjoy the strange and the mysterious, UFOs, the paranormal, and cryptids, this channel is for you. So make sure to subscribe, as I do 3 videos right here every single week, and hit that notification bell so you do not miss any of the bonus content I post right here.